If you think about what I did, yeah, I did 5 paper rounds, I think, consecutively when I was a kid to earn money. I was doing like a morning paper round, an afternoon paper round, a Thursday paper round, Friday paper round, a Saturday afternoon paper round, car washing, washed dishes. At university, I used to put on a blue cap and an apron and wash dishes in front of my university colleagues at my halls of residence where I lived. Credit cards haven't changed for 40 years. I think there's a massive opportunity to do individual, personalised, tailored credit cards that have got loyalty and rewards to suit you as an individual. So I'll understand you as a customer, maybe using AI, and I will present you with much more useful activities and rewards and engagement, which is massively important for brands because all a brand wants to do is engage their customer and increase loyalty. And I think cards can be a big component of that.
Look, as soon as I hit 16, seeing how my parents operated, I was very much so, yeah, I'm going to get an education, but I'm also going to get out there and start working. So whether it was weekends, whether it was holidays, I was, you name it. I've worked at Currys, I've worked at Tesco, I've worked at all sorts of, like a paint company, all sorts of places, right? British Gas, that's the other one. And I've sort of built that experience even before I went to university. So as soon as I came out of university with this degree, not quite knowing what I wanted to do, I thought, well, I'm going to bag the first job that I can get just to get in and start getting experience, which was this biscuit company. I mean, I think that from a consumer point of view, like I get a lot of my inspiration from my teenage daughters, right? Because seeing what their shopping experiences are like and how different they are to mine, I think is likely to stick with us, right? So you're going to find a cohort of society where their shopping experience will be, it's in the moment, it's in the channel that they're in, so it'll be fully embedded, fully integrated in that commerce journey, and it might be enabled through a social channel, right, through alternative commerce journeys. And I think that consumers will demand and expect brilliant experience and it to be in the channel of their choice, in the method of payment that they want to pay with, on their terms. So I think consumers will more and more want to see that choice, want to see the friction-free experiences in the environment that they're in.
Always lived in London my whole life, grew up in London. As I said, sort of my dad was always in town in the city. The city of London is always an attractive thing, right? But I think it definitely changed me in a way of thinking, right, that was the path to university after those experiences. It wasn't a gap year where I sort of gallivanted, did a round the world trip. And I wanted to be very sort of purposeful about that. You know, at the time.
Which is commendable for an 18-year-old,
yeah,
by the way.
I think that's one of the things, being sort of an older head on young shoulders. Yeah. I commonly see that trend when I see sort of, you know, 30, mid-30s, even nowadays. I mean, you're getting younger and younger founders, right, going in and being able to articulate things that are probably 10, 20 years, you know, ahead of their time. And so I kind of had that. I think there was a point in that where, I understood it was purposeful and there was something to gain from it. If you think about the understanding of AI and how it can read data, it can create predictability. So if you can take a user session, a consumer, and because of that you can figure out what's their highest preference for payment method, what's their sort of typical device.
I think a year in after graduation, your jobs change on a regular basis. So depending on the contract you're on, depending on new build refurbs, they'll take different amounts of time. So you're constantly in a new cycle every few months. And at that point, I decided I was going to go a bit more mainstream finance. I'd love to say that cash is gone, but I don't think it will be. So apparently cash usage has now started to go back up post-COVID. I think it's just the easiest way you manage your money. In your pocket, you can spend it. And when there's nothing left in your pocket, you can't spend it.
My parents put in this aspect of curiosity was important, right? I'm not sure school was formidable for me in the mid-teens where I felt like that was what created where I wanted to go. I think still, I don't know where I want to go. I think it's part of life.
So at what point did it turn from, okay, I'm helping Staples with their website or whatever, to like, this is likely going to be the career that I choose? Do you think you ever like got to a realization that you were going to work in tech?
I did it really as I needed income to pay for my rent. If you ask me like what's been missing in every aspect, every role that I've ever had was the level of impact. I've contemplated, should I go do my own thing, just start my own company? That will obviously give you the biggest impact. Impact is going to be the most important.
I did about a year in the gym and, working in the gym is not very well paid. It was like, right, I need to get paid some more money. And so I was like, right, what am I going to do? I need to get another job. And what I'd been doing a bit of was selling gym memberships. It just teaches you to talk to people. You know, a lot of young people now don't talk to people, you know, texting and stuff like that. And I think that skill of like communication and just picking yourself up every time you get knocked down, you know, is really important. So I think the whole generative AI thing is going to have a big impact on our industry. It already is, right? So, you know, the scale of attacks that can happen on, you know, things like biometric systems, on document verification systems, I think that's going to be a real challenge for our industry. You know, those threat vectors are going to continue to evolve over time because those technologies now and then the hand of, you know, bad actors means that they can do relatively, you know, much more sophisticated attacks at scale, right? And I think that's going to be a real challenge for our industry. And I think we're going to see huge evolution. It's going to push us on, right, as an industry, right? We're not going to be able to do a lot of the stuff that we have historically done because those things are going to be fundamentally broken.
Our CEO at the time, a guy called Richard Law, it was like, could have been really scary, really nice, took me into board meetings. Worst thing, we did a presentation to B&Q, and part of B&Q was called California Shutters. Yeah. I did the slide, it said California Shitters. I presented that to them. It was terrible. Everybody who knows that I did an English language degree but can't spell are rolling their eyes at me. I think we will see less and less of tech in the front of our face. The challenge is to make everything that is not value add to the consumer entirely invisible. I'll give you a really good example today. Anybody who goes onto their bank, they have to spend 5 minutes learning about scams. That's irritating. And that's because actually things aren't compensating for it. I think in the future, everything has to be invisible, and I think we'll get to a point of that.
I walk out of that room with my blue passport and I go back to shiny skyscrapers, and he goes back to his cell. And I didn't get to choose to be born where I was born and how I was born, and he didn't either. And I'm not saying that we don't take responsibility, but I'm saying the unfairness of it really struck me. And most of my choices since then have been oriented around how do you create opportunity for others? How do we steward what we've been gifted by virtue of our birth? And how do we utilize the assets and the resources around us for maximum impact? You know, if it's not stretching, if it's not hard, I feel like it's actually a bit disrespectful to who we are as humans. So we've got to challenge ourselves, because what we can accomplish together is phenomenal if we put our minds to it. Now, take your own advice, trust your gut, because the same thing. Every VC, we speak to 100 VCs, we got 100 different, or 100 advisors, or 100, it's 100, you got to make the call. It's on you.
You're in the seat.
You're in the seat, and you are enough, and you have enough to make that call and go with it. And you know what? It'll probably not kill you.
Within my early career, I actually had my managing director of a company. So this was the second company I was working for in my career. The managing director came up to me. I just always remember his words. His words were, "Goodness me, you can speak binary and English. We need to get you in front of customers." And it was. And that's how a product background really started. Because at the time, you never had product managers. You just had engineers, and engineers who could architect things. And if you could speak to a business language as well as the technical language, well, it was early days. But I can't even think when product management as a term really came about. But it was way after all the stuff that I was working on. If you look at places like Germany and those sort of places where they have their IDs, and the ID is now becoming a passport for my identity. And I think that we in the UK need to follow some of those sort of guidances. So I do believe that you will have independent people or independent organisations that will store an identity and prove that that is a person that is being used. If banks can start using that sort of external source, then that's where it needs to come.